Hello everyone and welcome back to another Baltic Sea Simulator video. In the last episode, I played this game for the very first time and learned the basics as well as purchased a new ship, that being the Regal Star. Just like last time, the main goal in this video will be to buy a new ship, but I would also like to do some other things like exploring some new areas on the map. So without further ado, let's get started. I want to first start off by traveling to Helsinki from Tallinn. In my last video, I traveled out of this port after I had spawned there, but I have never actually gone into the port. In an effort to better learn the map, I think this will be a good idea. By now though, I am starting to learn this general area a bit better. It's not a very long route, but I think I'll go ahead and do some longer ones after this. So it does turn out that I accidentally went to the wrong Helsinki port, so I did get deducted a bit of money, but it's not too bad. I guess that's my beginner mistake of the day, or at least one of them. But I'm going to head over to South Paldiski now, and after that do a bit of a longer route. Alright, I have just dropped off my cargo over at Paldiski, and with that cargo trip, we have now broken $1 million. I'm going to make my next route over to Kapellskär. The next ship I will be trying to get, I think, will either be the Sea Wind or Viking Rosella. Sea Wind is $3.5 million, while Rosella is $5 million. There doesn't seem to be a ginormous income increase between the ship I currently have and these other two, so I think it'll really just depend on how long it takes to get enough money for them. If it's not too long, then I'll go for Rosella, but if I'm wanting a new ship before then I'll go ahead and buy the Sea Wind. So that ship right there made me a nice $500,000+. The next port that I want to go to is not far at all, and that is Stockholm. Stockholm is pretty interesting because the only way to get to it is by traversing through this canal, which I haven't seen yet at any of the other locations I've been to. Stockholm was actually the very first place that I spawned at, but if you watched that part of the last video, then you know I hadn't actually seen the tutorial yet, so I wasn't very sure what to do. And since then, I haven't gone back. That trip made nearly $300,000, so definitely not as much as last time, but not bad for a quick trip. As you can see, I'm already getting pretty close to $2 million, and I think at the rate I'm going, I'll probably end up wanting to buy the Viking Rosella for $5 million. The next general area that I want to go to is up towards the top of the map. Well, not the very top, but further up than I've been yet, up where there's a bunch of these small islands. I think all of these crowded islands will make for a few interesting cargo trips, having to make sure that I don't actually hit them. The first one though, as I head to Eckerö from Stockholm, shouldn't be too bad, but these ones afterwards will definitely be a bit more interesting. Throughout my entire time playing Baltic Sea Simulator so far, I've really stayed near the middle or bottom of the map. And while there are still a couple places left for me to explore, including the biggest ports, I've definitely gotten a good feel for that part of the map. In this video, I would like to try and learn this slightly upper part of the map. Coming to new ports is also always fun, just seeing what they look like. For example, I had no clue this place was as small as it is. It's definitely not made for ships much bigger than mine, I think. But that trip right there made me almost $400,000, getting us just a bit closer to my next ship. Next, I plan on going over to Turku, which means I will be traveling around the outside of all of these small islands. It's probably one of the more interesting sights I've seen so far, having all of the individual islands on my starboard side and the vast open water on my port side. There are a couple of ports over there, however they are very far away and not close at all to any of the other ports in the game, so I think that'll be an adventure for another time. And of course, it turns to be nighttime just as I'm entering the hardest part of this journey, which requires me to navigate between multiple islands. Though it's nighttime, it seems that the fog has let up a bit, and I can certainly see the lines of buoys guiding me into port. That trip right there made me over $400,000, and I am at this point starting to approach $4 million total. So I have at this point decided to go ahead and aim for the Viking Rosella. The next place I want to go is just back over to Hanko. It'll mean that I have to continue through these smaller islands, but eventually I will get back out to open water. And once I'm back at Hanko, I'll probably go back to Tallinn, completing a huge circle that I've been making in this video. That trip to Hanko didn't make me a whole lot, however it's definitely refreshing to be back in a familiar area, and I am now extremely close to $4 million. As I said, I'm going to head over to Tallinn. I'll probably only do some straightforward routes for the rest of the video, as I've gone to a lot of places in this video that weren't the easiest to navigate for someone who has never been to them, especially at night. Namely though, the region I've only just now left, the Åland Islands. With only about $1 million left to go, it shouldn't be too much longer before I can buy my next ship. As I'm entering this port, it is definitely pretty crowded. There are a ton of ships here, and I think it seems that for the first time I will have to use one of the ramps further back in the port. This will definitely be one of the more interesting docking experiences, I think. I was just starting to back out, but it does seem that this ship is leaving, and I'm pretty sure this is actually the best ship in the game, or at least one of them. I know that there's two that are very similar, and I'm pretty sure that is one of them. It is a pretty cool looking ship. So I'm just going to pull in here, and with this cargo trip I will definitely be over $4 million. And there we go, just over $300,000, and we are now at 4.28 million total. So I'll do a few more simple routes, and before long we should be at that $5 million goal. So I'm recording this footage on a different day, and as you can see by the different menu, there has been a pretty decently big update. In the middle there are things like server stats and profile stats, and then on the right you can of course see the updated changelog for this update. And as I'm going to spawn in, I have definitely realized that almost every single port has actual photos. This is definitely a pretty cool change, as before it was just empty, kind of like Stockholm is currently. There were also some graphical changes which I can definitely notice already. The game feels like it has a bit of a blue tinge to it now. But by far the biggest new thing is the addition of a map, and I have not actually opened it yet, so let's go ahead and do that now. And wow, look at this. This is a super in-depth map. You can see all of the different port names, the buoys, the other ships in the game, and their trajectories. And you can click on them and actually see them, which is insane. You can see the name of the ship, the type of the ship, the person who is piloting it, the heading, their destination, and their departing port. And it looks like you can place a waypoint. I'm not entirely sure how to do that, but it does look like there's a remove waypoint option in the bottom, so maybe there's some sort of way, I assume. And then of course you can turn this stuff off. This game was by no means unplayable without a map, but this is definitely going to make it much easier. This is a really cool update, and I think it just goes to show how much this game is still developing and how much cooler it's going to get. But currently I only need just over $700,000 more until I'm at that $5 million goal. So I'm just going to go do a couple very easy and simple routes, and then we should be good to go. I think I'll probably just go to Hanko and from there go to Paldiski. Once I've completed those two trips, I should have enough money. I have also just figured out how to place waypoints, which you can do by opening the map, right-clicking a location, and as you can see, it will appear even when you are not in the map itself. And it'll tell you the distance to the waypoint as well. This is definitely another great quality of life feature. I am pretty excited to buy the Viking Rosella, as I feel that in general, Viking ships do look really nice. It does also go a couple knots faster than the Regal Star, which is always a good improvement. And as you can see from these time lapses, this new update has also made the nights a bit brighter. It is pretty cool being able to see all of these ships from a distance. After completing this route to Hanko, it does seem that I would need a bit more money than I would get from just going to Paldiski, so instead I will go over to Kapellskär. On this route, I really did take some time to just take in the new graphics. I feel like the game looks a lot softer and more pleasant now. The old graphics by no means looked bad, but I definitely don't mind this change. So I'm docking now and getting ready to unload what should be the last cargo trip that I do with this ship. So let's go ahead and unload this cargo. So there we go, almost $550,000 from that trip, and we are now at 5.1 million total. So let's go ahead and go back to the menu and buy us a new ship. And there it is, Viking Rosella at the very top of the Viking line category. So let's go ahead and hit that green purchase button, and there we go. Let's go ahead and use this too, because I do want to go ahead and do at least one trip with this ship in this video. So here we are spawned in with the Viking Rosella, and it is just a really beautiful ship. As I said already, I do really love the way that most Viking ships look, and this is definitely no exception. I think it is definitely a ship that I will enjoy using for the foreseeable future. I have spawned over at Hanko, and I think I'm just going to do a basic trip over to Paldiski. And here we are after completing the trip over to Paldiski. You can see that I did make a bit over $330,000, but ultimately this was more about piloting this ship for the first time than the money. With that trip complete though, I will be ending the video here. If you did enjoy, a like and subscribe would be greatly appreciated. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all later. Bye!